Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 7 Days of Hope. We're at day 6 already. Can you believe that? Day 6, this week has just flown way by so quickly. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to wrap up a few little tech things that we want to talk about with the chat. If you're on a mobile device and you're on our live event page, if you're having trouble with the chat box, you can go right underneath this video and there's a link to click over to head over to YouTube. And so apparently YouTube works better with mobile devices. And if you're here on our live page, you can just use the chat box right there to the right-hand side. If you set your name under temporary, just put your name in, you'll be able to chat. You don't have to log into anything, just put in your name and you'll be able to chat with us. So we'll be asking you questions and you can ask Trina questions and we'll be able to pull your comments right from the chat box and communicate with Trina. We are so happy that you've joined us. I'm Marisol, by the way. I'm a member of the Hope team, and we've just been so excited to put on these 7 Days of Hope for you. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it right over to Trina.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for trusting us with your time and your energy and your love. And there's so much of that around, and the people who are with me tonight are just, we couldn't do a thing like this without them. So I want to introduce our special guests tonight, which are Alan Smith, my good friend from way back, about 30 years. And hi, Alan. And
Hi.
We'll hear more from him in a little bit. And he has done the song that has ended this program. So you'll hear how he did it and more about this and how we know each other. And the other person is Julia. Julia, how do you say your last name properly? Kristeller. Okay. Julia has been a very, very productive woman in her life and has done many, many things, including working for Scholastic many years and in the publishing industry and being an interfaith guru, minister, or whatever she wants to call herself. She'll tell you more about whatever she chooses. And now Julia has experienced the isolation of this present time in a heavy way, because what we have really to be aware of is that we are doing this in a very serious time of history, of world history, where globally we are experiencing the same thing to some degree. Some of us at privileged positions, like I am, at being able to isolate myself, and other people serving the rest of us in the best way we can think of, as out there as what they call essential workers. And thank you for all of those people. And some people are suffering and some people are mourning great losses. So we thank everybody doing that. And then the rest of the team here, we have Thais here. Hello, Thais.
Hello. Hi. Hello. Good to see everyone.
And then we have Scott, our brave engineer, who's engineered this whole week. And
Hello.
And Thais did the music, by the way, but you'll hear more from her later. So, and then of course back to Marisol, I guess. Marisol is, we make quite a team together. She makes it possible for me to bring up my ideas without feeling I'm going to crush her and put her in the hospital or something. So it's wonderful to work with somebody with whom you can speak. And so, Marisol, thank you so much for your work in all this and your constant availability. You and Scott have been wonderful. And we have one more person who wants to stay anonymous, who's created this magnificent website that is going to be unveiled tomorrow. And if you go to hopefortheflowers.com by Monday, if you go by, it'll be hopefortheflowers.com by Monday, won't it?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll be able to see it tomorrow and then go to it on Monday. It'll be our site. It's right now in process, as they always say. So, okay, Marisol.
That was great, Trina. Thank you so much. Right now, what we like to do before we start our live is to just take a few minutes, especially during this time, how important it is to just release everything that we're carrying just breathe. It is so hard when we have this anxiety and we have this fear. We really want to bring hope tonight. And so to start that, we want to just take a deep breath and breathe. So take it away, Scott. Hello, fellow hopers, family, friends, and hope revolutionaries. It's Marisol. Welcome to the 7 Days of Hope. I'm part of a wonderful hope team. We've been working hard with Trina behind the scenes, and we hope you have a wonderful time tonight. Or today, it could be today, depending on where you are in the world, right? But we're so happy that you've joined us. Thank you for trusting us with this time together. Before we go on to our live presentation, and I'm sorry you might have to put up with this few minutes every night, but I want to bring us into state. I want us to all just take a moment to just relax our bodies and stand still and just acknowledge however we feel. However we feel, just acknowledge that. And then let's take a deep breath, just a deep inhale. But when we take that breath, let it be the breath of hope. So let's take that breath together. And we're going to hold for 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to release whatever cares, whatever things we need to let go. We're just going to release it as we exhale that breath. And we're going to do it 2 more times. We're going to inhale that breath of hope. And we're going to hold it for 1, 2, 3. And on the exhale, we're going to just release whatever we need to release and let go, whatever we need to let go. And 1 more time, breathe in that breath of hope. And breathe out whatever we have to release. And when you're ready to get back into the room, we are ready for you. Welcome and enjoy the 7 Days of Hope.
Chapter 6 is a mighty sad chapter, pierced with a few rays of hope, very often like our lives. What's come before is a story of 2 caterpillars, one named Stripe and one named Yellow. And after climbing this horrible pillar, they decide to come down and discover they do love each other. But Stripe couldn't stand not knowing what was at the top of this caterpillar pillar that they had found and had been crawling on. Yellow just knew that was the wrong way, so she didn't go with him. And so Stripe went back on the pillar, and Yellow then was searching and searching for the meaning of life and found it and decided to risk for being a butterfly, even though it was very scary for her. Then we go to Stripe, who's on the pillar and climbing ruthlessly, and he gets to the top and he finds there's nothing there at all, nothing. And that the top layer has to be pushed off by the next top layer each time. So if you get to the top, you are dying, you die, you just are pushed off. And then this gorgeous flying creature comes by and inspires him. It has the look of Yellow. They couldn't talk to each other. They couldn't understand what each other were saying. But he had the sense that there was something wonderful there, and he decided he couldn't let this creature take him away, and that he had to turn around and go down and sort of face what he was doing. And this is where we're picking up the story in chapter 6. He turned around and began down the pillar. This time he didn't curl up. He stretched out full length and looked straight into the eyes of each caterpillar. He marveled at the variety and beauty, amazed that he had never noticed it before. He whispered to each, "I've been up. There's nothing there." Most paid no attention. They were too intent on climbing. One said, "It's sour grapes. He's bitter. I bet he never made it to the top." But some were shocked and even stopped climbing to hear him better. One of those whispered in anguish, "Don't say it, even if it's true. What else can we do?" Stripe's answer shocked them all, including himself. We can fly. We can become butterflies. There's nothing at the top, and it doesn't matter. As he heard his own message, he realized how he had misread the instinct to get high. To get to the top, he must fly, not climb. Stripe looked at each caterpillar, inebriated with joy that there could be a butterfly inside. But the reaction was worse than before. He saw fear in eyes. They didn't stop to listen or speak. This happy, glorious news was too much to take, too good to be true. And if it wasn't true? The hope that lit up the pillar dimmed. All seemed confused and unreal. The way down was so immensely long. The vision of the butterfly faded. Doubt flooded Stripe. The pile took on horrible dimensions. He struggled on, barely, blindly. It seemed wrong to give up believing. Yet believing seemed impossible. A crawler sneered. How could you swallow such a story? Our life is earth and climbing. Look at us, worms. We couldn't be butterflies inside. Make the best of it and enjoy caterpillar living. Perhaps he's right, sighed Stripe. I haven't any proof. Did I only make it up because I needed it so much? And in pain, he continued down, searching for those eyes which would let him whisper, I saw a butterfly. There can be more to life. One day, finally, he was down. That's the end of chapter 6. I'm always so grateful the music continues a little bit after the end of the reading. I don't know how you go straight from the reading into anything. And Thais, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're with us tonight because it's such a great privilege to have had your music.
Oh, anytime, Trina, anytime. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to support you and do this and be a part of this team and project. So I'm just glad I could help. I could add a little something of my own music to this and, enhance or whatever. Yeah.
Thais is quite a musician in her own right. And we have Alan here. So we have two musicians on this program tonight. And Julia is a poet as well as many other things. So it's a wonderfully artistic evening we're having. Now, about this part coming down, it's, to me, so profound. I remember when I had this big discussion about the nature of grace, and the people I was discussing said that all the caterpillars could be carried off from the pillar just by they get to the top. They didn't have to come down. But for me, grace meant that they were given the grace to turn around, and Stripe was turned around and had to come down. It's like penance. If you sin, it's like karma. If you've done bad things, you do have to come down, and the grace comes from beyond you to help you turn around. And the higher power in AA and many other ways of thinking about this. But he had to come down for me. He just had to come down. And so it's us going through the dark night of our senses. It's us going through the diminishments of our life, which we'll all go through. It's us becoming older and not able to do all we want. It's us getting sick. It's us realizing that we might have been on a bad road and changing our lives around. It's all of these things. It's a parable. You could take it however you're at, right, at the time you're at. So I just will appreciate the things that all of you have to say, and the people listening from afar, virtually, you too, but we'll start with the ones right here, whoever feels called to do first. Their thought.
Yeah. I think this story is so beautiful. It's so touching. It's definitely dealing with aspects of so much of what's going on today, as has been said or in earlier discussions. When I created the music for your story, I did it from my heart, and I listened to your voice and the way you read it, and your expression and how you put so much into the story. I could feel it, and I felt your energy, and from that the music was born, just like a mother and a child. It was just like that, and that's how it felt, and it just came out of me. And
wonderful. Yeah. Isn't that terrific? Isn't that beautiful? Thank you, Thais.
Yes.
Thank you for expressing it and telling us and telling everybody about it. And I especially, I think, like some of those pillar sounds.
I love pillars.
Those darker sounds, and then the little tinkle of lights that came through in the middle.
And in fact, to bring out the message of your story and that, what you're trying to say.
Well, you did it. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. You're welcome. Anytime.
And I know Julia had some things to say about this, and I hope she says them, because she moved me so much when we prepared for this yesterday.
Well, I think that the coming down from the pillar, as Thais and Trina said, is a global experience right now. Sometimes we have the courage to make those choices. Stripe and Yellow made the choice, and then Yellow knew that she had made a right choice, even if she didn't have the answers. But Stripe got pulled back to the pillar. And I've personally had that experience many times in my life, where I think I've left that climb, and then something, some need arises, some opportunity, something that calls me back. And I've been very blessed with having a wonderful pillar that was about being of service to people, but it was still, driven and busy and not so much about self-care. And sometimes when we don't have the courage to come down, something takes us down. And, that's happened to the world, and it's happened to me and my husband very personally, because we both work in nursing homes, and we both came down ill with COVID so a couple of weeks ago. And so we have had to step out of that life of serving others and taking care of others and take care of ourselves, and save our own lives. And that's been a very deep, interesting process. And as we've sat listening to the book this week, we've been able to look at each other and go, oh my gosh, is it talking to us? Because also we're in a couple. And I think this story is also a wonderful saga of relationship, that the circumstances within a relationship don't always feel the same to both people in a relationship, or to everyone in a family, that people are tugged and pulled by who they are. Scott talked about it the other night in terms of stages of living. And, we're both at this particular stage called starting to have the retirement conversation. And what does that mean, to step out of the way you have been accustomed to moving through the world and know that there's the possibility of something different than the climb, there's possibility also of something different than just being a recluse from the climb. There's a possibility of flight in a new way. And right now, the whole world is in a waiting, holding pattern where we don't know. We don't know that those pillars will be there when we re-enter the world ever again in the same way. We pray that they'll be healthier and happier and more relational.
It's so amazing to me that so many business schools use hope as required reading, because they know that it's cooperation and not competition that's going to lead us to our greatest success. And to actually have this book as required reading in a business school is pretty amazing. But some of the things that I get to see from all of the fan stuff coming in just really impresses me. And I know that it's the pillars that they want people to avoid. So when they're teaching business, they're teaching that we're going to get so much more if we cooperate. It's not about competition. It's about sharing. It's about cooperation. And that's the beauty of when you understand what that pillar means and you're ready to climb down.
And I think it's also about listening to your own true self, because that's really the only person we can be in this world.
I think it's also about knowing when to wait and to not rush into anything, especially like with Stripe, when he's trying to get to the top and he finds this, there may be what he's not expecting and what he's not looking for. It's a matter of waiting sometimes. And when you wait and you slow down, you have a chance to see more what's around you. And that allowed Yellow to see, her friend, to help her reach the goal of where she wanted to go, without rushing up like her boyfriend. But yeah, that waiting is sometimes worth the wait.
So I have Carolyn Vidala in here saying, when we don't have the courage to come down, the world takes us down. That's so true. And the waves of life. So she's really, really resounding with what you were saying, Julia. And we have Mama T, who says, we're not really all in the same boat. However, we are all shipwrecked. Some of us are riding out the storm comfortably, while others don't know where their next meal is coming from. We have to check on those you can, and God bless us all. And Wayne says he has read Hope for the Flowers 50 to 60 times in his life, but it's never sounded so good as when Trina's reading it. So what an incredible treat, he says.
Oh, my goodness. Julia, I think you had something special to read to us.
Well, as Trina said, I've worn many different hats in my life, been blessed with many different ways of being in the world, and recently identify myself as an interfaith minister, having climbed down off the publishing ladder. And I've also been trained and had a long background in creative arts therapies. And my chosen art form for myself personally is poetry. And I'm going to start with a spiritual text I've been reading and sustained over the past few weeks since I've been ill. And my husband and I have been reading together this wonderful book called The Sage's Tao Te Ching. And though it speaks to this time we are at in our life about letting go of the drive that we might have been driven by earlier in our life and embracing the wisdom of not knowing and the wisdom of being a sage. I kind of see Yellow as a sage. So this is a chapter, this is an interpretation of the Tao Te Ching rewritten by William Martin, and this is chapter 35.
Julia, I'm going to ask you to be careful with the book and the computer, because when the sound. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's called Hope is Always Waiting. The sage sees life in deeper ways, sees the intricate patterns of beauty embedded in life's fabric, sees comfort woven within the pain, sees gain shining amidst the losses, sees forgiveness binding up resentment's wounds, and sees life always rising out of death. Always waiting for you to find.
Julia, we lost your audio. I don't know if you had an internet lag. Is there any way you can read that again?
Oh dear, where did you lose me?
Almost. I think it wouldn't hurt to read it again.
Okay.
I don't think it would hurt at all.
So this is from the Tao Te Ching, one of the sweetest pieces of spiritual scripture that has guides me. So I see Trina on now. Is my sound on? Okay. The sage sees life in different ways, sees intricate patterns of beauty embedded in life's fabric, sees comfort woven within the pain, sees gain shining amid the losses, sees forgiveness binding up resentment's wounds. So much of our perception is conditioned by our fears and our desires. We must learn now to see the things that others cannot see. We must assure them of the beauty hidden there. Look deeply now into your own life. Search out the hidden things within your present circumstances. The beauty is there. Comfort and forgiveness are available. Hope is always waiting for you.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. I'm so glad you read it again. And we had people in chat saying, please read it from the beginning.
It's beautiful.
Alan, I'd love to hear from you. You've been mighty quiet over there.
Just waiting for a cue.
You're welcome to join the conversation. This is just a conversation among friends. Please.
In just thinking about the coming down off of the pillar, the paths in life that lead us up whatever the pillar is to each one of us are led by ideology and family and culture, and all of the things that we've been taught since we were a little kid are the right things for us to be doing in life often. So when we take that trip up that pillar, we think we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, is the message that I've always gotten from it. And then sometimes a message or something tells us that maybe this is not what we should be doing with our lives, and having that courage or inspiration or other people in our lives that lead us in a different direction could be a stroke of luck or courage. But maybe this time in our life where a lot of us are forced into what a lot of people are calling the great pause, and again, coming from a position of privilege, I'm able to take this pause pretty comfortably. And I recognize when I say, I hope that people can take this moment and think about a lot of the things that maybe they were doing in their lives that were not meaningful to them or that they didn't enjoy. And maybe this could be one of those moments in time where if society doesn't just completely fall apart, or even if it does, maybe people can come down off that pillar and choose a different path in life. So if we look for hope in this moment, maybe that's it, that people can change their direction.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I think I'd like to come back in with this because the caterpillar, when it goes into the cocoon, it totally dissolves inside, except the essence is still there. And it's already changing. It's changing. And so I'm hoping that this time is where we change and already start to build the new world that's possible, the world of cooperation. And that we don't allow, because we're too scared and so worried and so uncertain, to look for a technological vaccine of any kind, and that we build up and go into the simpler ways of life, which are always there, which, for instance, means that we manufacture masks locally. And we build, I know people making their own masks all over the place, and that we learn how to do things with our hands again. We do the arts, and we plant our gardens, and we plant our pots on our fire escapes, and we raise food, and we do this kind of stuff, and we do these practical things, and we start that now while we're at home. Most of us were so busy that we were running around so much that we didn't have time to do it. So let's do that stuff around, and we can be far enough away from each other doing a lot of these things and do them. And so I think this might be a time that we could bring in one of my friends, Janet London. She's in charge of the CSA nearby.
Before we do, there's a lot of people asking about Julia's book, and I was hoping she could hold that up so that people could take a screenshot of it, and maybe you can say the title one more time, because
I'm hoping she gets back to read her poem, Marisol.
She will, but they just want to know that book.
I'm happy to do that. So the title, am I on? The
Yes.
title of this is The Sage's Tao Te Ching, A New Interpretation, Ancient Wisdom for the Second Half of Life by William Martin. And
So if you hold the book up, they can take a quick screenshot and then hopefully go find the book if they want to find the book. There we go.
It's available on Amazon.
Okay, thank you, Julia. I'm sorry, but there was a lot of people asking. A few people asking about the book.
Well, since Julia's back again, I know she has a poem of her own that she'd like to read. So maybe we just do that.
Well, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to share one more thing from this book that picks up on what Trina was just talking about. And it's from another chapter of all things called When a Flower Was a Flower. And this is the second half of the chapter. It said, it's about simplicity. When we first began to learn, things became more and more complex. Now things become simpler and simpler. We are returning to the direct appreciation of life that we had when we were children, when a flower was a flower, and a butterfly was a butterfly, and a caterpillar was a caterpillar, and we laughed and we cried with ease. So now I'll read a poem or two of my own. I want to say something about what Trina said the other night about not knowing knowing she wrote this book, but not knowing where it came from, and feeling that it was given to her. And I feel the same way about poetry, that poetry is given to us from a different place, as spiritual readings and teachings that come to us from a different place. And so this was a little poem just to introduce poetry. It's called Poems Flow. Where do they come from?
these words of wisdom and witness and wellness and woe. Poems flow from a different landscape of highs and lows, of water and the boulders it bangs against, of peace and pain and broken promises, of beauty to behold and betrayal to hold at bay. Poems flow from a different landscape of the mind than prose or pontificating or planning. At least let's hope so.
Beautiful.
So I really relate, Trina, one of the reasons I think your book has had life for 50 years and is being embraced and heard by people of all ages, from the very young to the very old, is because it came to you, it came through you. It holds some deeper wisdom about the nature of living and life that our souls recognize. And it definitely has a life. I have to tell just a wee little story about my connection with Trina, because people have done that, and we all have a Trina story. But Trina, I know you saw some women from the Grail last night. I'm also not as long a term a member of the Grail, but the Grail came into my life maybe 15 or 20 years ago. And I've spent many a weekend with Trina and groups of amazing women, both on retreat and in meetings. And when I saw that Trina had written Hope for the Flowers, I was like, oh my gosh, I got that book in 1972 when I was in college, and I have a dog-eared copy of it somewhere in my house. Well, Trina gave me a brand new copy, nicely autographed, and I went home, and somehow in my conversation with my son, who's now in his early 30s, this was several years ago, he said, you know Trina Paulus?
Oh dear.
And I was like, yeah, how do you know who Trina Paulus is? Well, Mom, that book, remember the book that you took out of the box? And this was when he was a kid. He said, I love that book. That is one of the best books written. Now, I didn't know that he and his girlfriend at 20-something would know about Hope for the Flowers. And I think I may have read it to him when he was little. But he acted like I just met the greatest celebrity in the world. And he said, anything I can do, if I could meet her, that would mean like the world to me, if I could talk to her. And it turns out that my son is the anonymous Sam of the website creation for Trina, that they have been in conversation on the phone, I think weekly, for months.
Not even on the phone. We've been on face-to-face. We're privileged to know the anonymous. He's part of the Hope team.
So not only did Trina inspire me, but without me even knowing it, had inspired my son into his adult life. And he was moved to use his skills to help this movement of hope. So that's my story.
That's wonderful. Alan, we're getting people asking about your story, saying that they know there were great changes. By the way, Jim Schenk says, money and stuff is the pile we are climbing on in our culture. We may not make it as a species, we may not become butterflies, but if we live as earthlings, seeing the earth as sacred, the future is okay. So yes, Alan, we have, Carolyn is asking about the changes and the transformations that have happened in your life. So this might be a really good time to come over to your story.
Sure. I think I met Trina out on Church Street in Montclair.
Oh, yes.
The Iraq War was getting ready to, when the invasion of Iraq was about to happen, and there was an eclectic mix of people out on Church Street every Friday afternoon doing our little part to try to stop it unsuccessfully. And I met Trina, and she told me she was an author. And when I saw the book, I remembered, it looked familiar to me. just from cultural osmosis, I think. And but I hadn't read it, or if I did, I was really little. So when I did read it, it struck a chord in me because I had gone through a lot of changes in my life, and I knew coming off the pillar in my own way was possible. So yeah, I was in a past life a police officer, and then I was a firefighter. Before that, I was a lot of other things that I probably don't even want to talk about. But there was a moment in my police officer career where I knew that I was miserable, and I couldn't put a real finger on exactly why, and the reasons why. The reasons that I chose to blame it probably weren't the real reasons why. But the shift from the police department to the fire department really gave me the opportunity to breathe a little bit and go to college for the first time in my life, 10 years after high school, that I barely made it through high school. And then there I started to, just learn about different perspectives and ideologies, and started to realize pretty quickly that there was a lot that I didn't know. And I think that was my climb down the pillar. And then realizing that you can change. I mean, that's the great thing about being a person, a human, is that we can choose to change, even though it's really hard sometimes. And if you do it for good reasons and for, in the song, if it's good for you in the rainforest, or just for reasons that don't harm others, it's probably going to be a good choice in your life to make those big changes. I'm certainly glad that I made the changes that I did.
Very good. Now this seems like a good time to go to the Purple Dragon video, talking about good choices. Organic produce, that's a really good choice, people.
So here we go.
Hi, I'm Janet from Purple Dragon Co-op. And since I was a child, I had some strong experiences that led me in the direction of organics. I've worked all my life in California, Texas, and here in New Jersey to promote small local organic farms and natural foods. Nowadays, the Purple Dragon model, which we've run for 31 years, works perfectly for social distancing food pickup. We organize neighborhood groups of families, and everyone goes and gets a mixed box of fruits, vegetables, and salad things every 2 weeks, and they pick it up from someone's porch or garage in a safe and socially distant way. In these dark times, as mirrored in Trina's book, we can look for a way to help each other and help our farmers and our communities to get healthy, natural foods for ourselves and our families. So we hope you'll join us. We also have an online store at purpledragon.com where people can get other products that they need for their homes, such as beans and grains. And we would love to meet you and work with you and work together to help create a better world. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Essential workers for so many years doing this work. And there are different styles of co-ops, some where you actually work with a particular farmer and help invest in it. Janet's co-op is a larger thing. You see that she sells more than just organic produce. And it's one of the places that I can go to while I'm in isolation, driving over there and taking the food off of the porch. And then we pay in some other fashion. It works. And so if you're interested in this, you're helping farmers, you're helping local farmers, you're helping get organic food, which is what the world needs to go to survive.
But it seems they're not hearing Trina.
They are now.
Okay.
Trina's just the first couple of words were missed. I'm sorry.
So Janet's been my friend for a long time, and I just admire what she's done for all these years. keeping us together and keeping us fed. And I've been able to go over there while in isolation in a car and just pick up my food safely on the porch and take it home with me. So, and she brings it from a lot of different places. She tries to get local wherever she can. And this is Midland, New Jersey. And so it's a great service she's giving. Now, she's not the only co-op here, and she's not the only co-op around. Probably if you're interested, you look up CSAs, that's Community Supported Agriculture Programs, or food co-ops, and help. It helps a lot of people when you do that. It keeps the money flowing around within a community, which is really what we need to be doing. So thank you, Janet, for your long time work, and thank you for this little video.
And Janet, by the way, is in Montclair. People are asking, so she is in Montclair. If you would like to just visit her website, it's going to be on our resource page, 7days.hopefortheflowers.com, which is in the YouTube description if you're on YouTube, and is also right on the live event page if you're with us on the live event page. So I will make sure that I put Janet's information when we get off of this live. So anyone who wants to reach out and is interested in organic produce, especially during this time where we could just do some porch pickup, I know that she would be really happy and will help to support that business that's been so vital in that community. So yeah, that's wonderful. Alan, people are asking about you. What are you doing now? What's happening? They want to get back to your story.
We don't want to talk too much about me, but I work at Montclair State University, Center for Writing Excellence, one-on-one with writers. I guess some people would call it a tutor. We call ourselves consultants. We're a really reputable writing center. So I get to help people one-on-one with writing in a similar environment online right now. We can't obviously go to Montclair State, but I'm lucky to be working 3 days a week with writers, helping them on their papers, because students at Montclair State are still in school. They're just doing it remotely. I'm also a musician. I have this old crazy house on Forest Street where we put a lot of shows together. I could show you our stage real quick. There's where we perform. And yeah, I don't know. I
had a question for you, Alan.
Sure.
Your video in, I think it was Costa Rica, when you did the Hope for the Flower song?
Yes.
There was a lot of stuff happening on that video, and people have been watching that video and seeing that video, and it's actually one of the videos we linked to on the resource page. So I'd love for you to tell us what was going on in that project. How did that project come about?
So that's Rancho Mastatal, that's Mastatal, in Costa Rica, and that's where the song Hope for the Flowers was written. Trina had asked me hesitantly, I think, quite a while before that, to take a shot at writing a song, Hope for the Flowers. But if I remember correctly, she was pretty clear that she might not like it, but she would like to see what I came up with. And I thought that that was a great opportunity, but it wasn't really coming to me. But so Rancho Mastatal is a sustainable living education center in the backwoods of rural Costa Rica. And they do incredible work there, and that's where I've learned how to do a lot of the things I know how to do in my life: natural building, carpentry, gardening, a lot of the skills that I'm really glad to have right now with what we're going through right now. And what I call my niece, Soleil, was born, and she was about 3 months old. And that's when I met my current roommate, who painted this mural behind me. And this has to be, gosh, when did we write? That video would tell you when that song was written, but I think it had to be like 2006, maybe? I'm not even sure. Maybe 8, I don't know. And we decided to make a short film at the ranch called Soleil's Fable, which doesn't exist anymore. But out of that, I made what I called Morpho Man, because the blue morpho is the butterfly in Costa Rica that's sort of as magical as the monarch is to us. And I made these giant morpho wings, and me and 3 friends at the ranch at the time sat around and collaborated, and we wrote the song Hope for the Flowers. Trina gave me the original hook. The only thing Trina said to me at the time was, when she asked me to try to write a song, she said she thinks the chorus should go, hope, hope, hope for the flowers. And that's all. Do you remember that, Trina?
No.
Well, I do. And so Trina has credit for that, hope, hope, hope for the flowers in the chorus. And the rest around.
Alan, you need to show people what's on top of those butterflies. Nobody can see it through the words. Oh, there. See, people need to see.
Transform, embrace, and realize your power, which is the words in the chorus, and then El bosque le necesita para vivir. In Spanish is the forest needs you to survive, because we were in the rainforest when we wrote it.
Well, our friends, I think, know the chorus pretty well because they've been listening to it at the end of the show every night. And I'm pretty sure some of us have been singing along.
That's really humbling.
It is humbling.
Do you have anything you want to say? I think we're almost getting to the top of the hour, so I kind of want to hear from everyone at least one more time.
Hey, me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wanted to just share one thing and offer this up for the people that are at their homes, the people that are healing as I am, finding their breath, and those caterpillars that Stripe had to pass by to get down off the pillar, that we remember them and hold them, and that healing, for those of everyone's healing right now, and everyone will have healing, is not any more than that. It's not about any more about a straight line and a pillar than life is. So this is called Roundabout Healing. I just wanted to share one thing that I'd written. Roundabout healing. There is no straight line leading through forests or into the sky. Birds know this. So do rockets that spend 90% of their course off course. Yet we are all drugged into the illusion that life is a trajectory from point A to point B. Now, if I could spread my wings, I would fly in circles and loop-de-loops like birds and butterflies. And maybe, if lucky, I'd return back home to my starting place. So what is this obsession with the straight and narrow road, with no room for going nowhere and for flying everywhere?
Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow, with no room for going anywhere or flying everywhere. Wow.
Beautiful.
Maybe we all remember the patience and the time, and that this is not just about strategic planning. This is about healing. And this is about that Stripe, and which we'll come to tomorrow, and Yellow being able to be butterflies and to get to the sky in a very roundabout way that has nothing to do with climbing over anyone else.
And there's enough room in the sky for every butterfly, but there is not enough room at the top of the pillar for almost anyone, and not for very long if they do get there. So it's a illusion that wealth is a goal to be sought after, even though it looks like they are the most powerful in the world right now. We have to really watch the interpretations of what we should do for the technological fixes that are going to be asked of us, that we're waiting for a vaccine, perhaps, instead of building up our immune system. Because I remember what Pasteur said on his deathbed. Now he's given credit for the whole worm, for the whole germ theory, that germs are really bad, and microbes and all these things are good in their own place, in their own way, if we learn to live with them properly. And there's a lot of bacteria in us that's very important. And Pasteur at the end said, the germs are not important. It's the environment that counts. It's the state of the person that counts, whether they're going to get sick. And so many of us have been so stressed out that our state, and we have not been eating right, we have not been living right, we have been on the pillar, and we're more likely to get sick. Now, I'm not saying this in an absolute way. Some people who have been doing all those things get sick. It depends on so many things. But we need to focus on building our immune system and getting ourselves straight in the head and spiritually, and realizing that the purpose of becoming a butterfly is not to just look pretty. You have a mission. We have a mission, and to carry the love of one flower to the other and receive the gift back from everybody who we ever meet in our lives. The sweet nectar that gives us life. So these are some of the things I really want to say as I thank everybody who's here tonight, and the gift of your presence on screen and your presence off screen. Thank you so very much for coming. And this is a very privileged and humbling time. And perhaps I should say that in a strange sort of way, my life has been upside down to most lives. Here I am at 88, coming out like this, publicly, 7 days in a week, an hour a day, with all these beautiful people. And the first part of my life was spent very quiet, more like typically people get older and get simpler and live simpler lives. My life has changed upside down. I'm in a much more complex life right now. And this week has been extraordinarily complicated doing what we're doing. And my first 25 years was very simple, very much on a farm, on farms of various kinds, and very much having a life of prayer and simplicity, and doing artwork and doing sculpture like the figure that you see in the back there. And this was my life. And as a sculptor, you spend a lot of time focused on something. It's a whole different world, but it was Hope for the Flowers came out of that life, that simple life. So it did come out of what the Tao Te Ching says has to happen. But my active life, which most people have when they're young, I had my baby at 43. I mean, and that whole part of householding and baby and soccer mom and hockey mom and all that stuff came when I was 50. I went to my first ski thing with him when I was over 50. So my life is very different. And here I am doing this.
Well,
Thank
Trina,
you.
you've risen to every challenge, and I am so proud of you. You have no idea.
Wonderful.
Well, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of, and Scott, you
Yes.
were going to say something. I was hoping you would.
Well, I was just going to say that as a very honored to be a member of the Hope team, and so very proud of everything that you've been doing, because you're not the one who is jumping up and down and wanting to put yourself out necessarily, but you have this beautiful story that you have told, and you're coming up almost on your 50th anniversary of the publication of Hope for the Flowers. So this has just been a really beautiful week for me, and I know for the other members of the team, because we're just so very proud that you are now sharing during the special time the 7 days of hope. So thank you very much, Trina.
I want to say that Scott's been sort of trying to push me for many years since we first met. And finally, he's gotten his chance to get me out there. So thank you, Scott, I guess.
Well,
I guess it's okay.
It's a mutual admiration society.
That's wonderful. We're getting to the top of the hour, and guess what time it is? It's time to sing along. We will see you tomorrow right back here at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining the 7 Days of Hope. And we are all going to give you, what are we giving everyone, Trina?
A big, big, big virtual hug. Oh, yes, all of us will give you a big,
virtual hugs.
Big.
Let's sing along together, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much.
so grow your wings and fly. Feed the plants and float by the river, and we'll be here by your side.
Make great choices and take big risks if they're good for you and the rainforest. Sing really loud and don't be afraid. You are the stuff of which butterflies are made. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Sometimes the pile that everyone's a-climbing up seems like the shiniest thing. But look in the eyes of the others you've been stepping on and wake to the light of all beings. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir.